Hello, yeah, hi guys, back to uh, my Magento's channel. So in this today's class, we are going to work on these four different things. The first one is create a plugin. Second one, how to create an observer. We are going to create an event and observer, and we are going to create one example with a preference, and we are going to overwrite a controller in that preference using our custom controller. So let's start with the first one, that's plugin. Let me open my project directory. So that's my local. I'm going to open the project in Visual Studio Code. So previously we developed our own extension, which was app code, heal, and first module. So we are going to continue with the same module which we have developed after this tutorial. I'm going to share this module to be downloaded from the YouTube description. You'll find the link to download this extension so you can quick start your research practicals with Magento extensions. So coming back to the first one, which is creating plugins. So before creating or working with plugins, let's understand what Magento tells about what's a plugin. So let's Google. You need to understand if you want to work with Magento or become a Magento developer, you have to identify what keyword you need to search for on the Google, and it plays a very key role through your development process. So Magento 2 plugins, and 99% I would suggest you guys use the Magento Dev Docs as the first reference. Yeah. So plugins or interceptors is a class that modifies the behavior of public class functions by intercepting a function call and running code before, after, or around that function call. This allows you to substitute or extend the behavior of original public methods for any class or interface. So let me tell you why we use plugins in Magento. You will be facing cases where you need to override Magento's default functionality. For example, Magento has lots of inbuilt extensions: Magento Customer, Magento Catalog, Magento Order, Magento Sales. So if there is already a functionality, for example, when you're registering on front end and you want to manipulate the data before the data is being saved to database. So Magento already provides a registration page, and there is a extension for that Magento customer, and you have to make changes into these core files. And Magento does not allow you to. I mean, you can directly edit the files, but Magento does not recommend and request to follow developer uh, standard practices. So instead of instead of directly writing the code into the Magento's core files, what Magento recommends to create your extensions, and in the extensions you are going to override the features. So for example, if you want to override a class and there is a method in it which is actually holding the value that you're looking for, and if the method is public, and then you have the option to use plugins, creating a plugin in your extension, and when this public function executes, before the function executes, if you want to make any change, after the function executes, if you want to do something, or around this function, if you want to override this function, then three different methods have you have option here to change. So let's imagine we need to do something before the this function is executing. When the object or the data is passed to this function, you want to add some detail into that object or an array or a variable and make change to that. So in that case, you would use a before function, and you have to create the same function in your module. You need to connect the class path with your class written in the plugin directory. It's not mandatory to create the plugin directory in your module. You can, but uh, as a general naming convention, it's better to have a plugin directory and creating your class in that. So to one of the core file, we are going to create a plugin, and we are going to get the control into our plugin now. So this is going to be our practice. This is not any kind of requirement. So plugins are mostly to change the behavior of that function. So here we have an add to cart plugin. We are going to use different articles and take the codes from there just to make sure we wrap this video at the least time possible. Uh, the plugins are added in the da.xml file. So you need to create the da.xml file in the etc directory. So let's create that. We have our etc directory already. So I'm going to create da.xml, and I'm going to copy this content here. So let me actually copy that. Yeah, we got lots of spaces in here. Unusual characters. Make sure you remove any such unusual characters. Yeah. So we have our plugin here. So let's let me just recopy this. So the type is type name and the plugin within the type. Yeah. So the type is the class name that you're going to manipulate the function from. So that's Magento checkout model card, and plugin is just the name. It could be any. You can write any name that you wish to. Type is going to be the plugin that you are writing in your module. So you need to define your module name and vendor name here. So my name is vendor Akhil. Module name first module. Then we need to create these directories into our module. So I'm going to do that. Plugin model. Yeah. Then check out art, and then our file plugin dot php. Yeah. So let me just reload this file stage. I'm gonna copy the content, paste this in here. Still see the spaces. I'm gonna get rid of these spaces in here. Yeah. So the namespace is going to be the vendor, which is Akil module. That's first. First module is module name. Then plugin, model card, checkout card. We already created this directory. This is the path, and our class is plugin. That's plugin.php, and we have a try catch block in here. we're using a before add to cart function here. So what happens when you add a product to the cart, before the product is added to the cart, you will get your control in here. Okay. So I'm gonna echo something here. This is my plugin custom. Then I'm gonna exit in here. So when we add the product to the cart, so before the product is added, it should break the functionality. Just to show you what's holding in that function, so I'm gonna open Magento checkout model cart file from the vendor. So the path is going to be Magento, then module hyphen checkout. That's this, and then the model and the cart.php file. Yeah, and our method was add product. Yeah, that's our function. This is our method which we are trying to. So before this method is called, we are going to add our specific code into that. I'm not going to add the code. I'm just going to show you how we are going to intercept and before this function is executed. So let's, now that we have created our file, let's do one deployment so that our plugin gets registered. So while our plugin gets executed, registered, so the next thing that we're going to discuss is events and observers. So what I'm gonna try here, Magento 2 events and observers. That's the second thing in our list, events and observers. Let's go through what events and observers are about. Let's switch to 2.4 since Magento 2.3 is going to end soon. Events and observers. Working with events and observers is one of the main ways to extend added commerce and Magento open source functionality. The events and observers implementation in added commerce and Magento open source are based on publish subscribe pattern. Using events and observers, you can run your custom code in response to a specific event or even a custom event. So when Magento has lots of its extensions pre-built, developed, and certain actions like when you're placing the order, when you're adding a product to the cart, when you're updating the cart, when you're registering, when you're logging in. So Magento dispatches certain events. The reason these events are dispatched for extensibility. So the coming when project is onboarded, the project is live, and you have lots of other functionalities to integrate. So login when the customer is logging in, and if you want to extend, you want to do perform some certain actions when the customer is logging in. Certainly, we don't need to override the functionality of login in the preferences or in the plugins. So Magento dispatches an event when the login function is executed. So one before the login function is completed, one after the login function is completed. So events can be specified as before and after events also. So before the login, customer clicks on login, the data is being posted to the controller, from the controller to the model. If you before the customer gets a response that you're successfully logging, if you want to do something, then you can specify that event name. You need to go into the module, Magento Score module, and identify the name, get that name, and write in your events.xml file that this is the event that I wanna uh, observe. And once you add a certain class, your custom class, which is going to execute when this event is called. So whenever the customer is adding username and password in the field and clicks on login, then you have your control in your observer. Now you can perform certain actions like get the current IP address, read some cookie values, and store in different tables. Maybe execute a send and trigger an email, or perform some other action which is irrelevant to the Magento customer module, but you need some customization only when someone clicks on login button. So yeah, that's about events and observers. Our deployment is completed. So let's see if we what happens when we add a product to the cart uh, in our store. Um, so I'm sure that in our store do not have any products listed. So I'm going to quickly create a product here from back office. Catalog products. So I'm going to add the product as test, some random price. This is a simple product. And assign the category as default. And I'm going to load an image in here. Let's just get this product live without any image. That's okay. Let me search this product on the front end. See what happens. Yeah, my test product is now available to add to the cart. I'm going back to the code which I have written, our custom plugin, which is this, and in the plugin I haven't written anything in here, so it should add the product to the cart without any issues. Yeah, the product is added to the cart. And I'm gonna break this code using the exit statement. Let's see if I can add the product again to the cart. I'm gonna inspect the element, check the network, move the editor to the bottom, network panel. So the product is not added to the cart because I have broke the control in here. So yeah, now we have, I can assure you that the control is now in our custom extension. So this is how you intercept using the plugins. So as soon as I comment this code again and add product to the cart, you can see that there is an add to product here on the top once the product is added to the cart. But as soon as I uncomment and break something here, it breaks. So it depends. Now you want to change the product info, you have your product info object here, and if you want to add a greater detail to that or make changes to that, that's up to you on how you're going to change the data. So see if we can add product to the cart. So yeah, that's how you create your plugin and intercept into the public functions. Plugins are restricted. You can only use on public methods, and there are certain restrictions here on public methods. You can't use on any other private or protected methods. So yeah, in cases like when the methods are not public, you need to check the alternates. Maybe an observer, maybe an reference, something like that. Yeah. So moving back to events and observers, I have already given you an outline what the events and observers are about. So what we are going to do now, we are going to create an event and observer. We have an example here, controller action, pre-dispatch, checkout, cart, add. So in this tutorial by Webtool, they are using the uh, checkouts add to cart. Yeah, when the product is added to the cart, then an event is dispatched in that particular controller. So we are going to use the same example and we are going to use our observer. So I'm going to copy that. You need to create events.xml file in your etc directory. And the name could be anything. The class vendor name is XUUNL. Module name is first module and observer restrict add to cart. So you want to create the observer directory, then the file restrict add to cart.php. Yeah, and I'm gonna just copy this to my class written already, and I'm gonna change the class name kill first module. So if your condition, your custom message parameter is product false, return this. So I'm gonna uncomment. I'm gonna comment all of the written code which they have written in here. So when the product is added to the cart, we are going to get our control in this method in this observer. So let's do a deployment only to register our observer. And our last topic is preferences. Preferences. So I'm gonna go back to Google and type Magento 2 preference. I'm gonna stick to Magento Dev Docs. Switch to 2.4. Yeah, let me close unnecessary pages. Dependency injection, configuration, object manager can also specify areas and application endpoints, reference, reference not specified the default implementation, override a method using preference nodes. So I'm gonna, if you want to override a public or protected method from a core class, utilize the preferences node from dir.xml to achieve. Here is an example. So to understand preference, you need to understand what dependency injection is about. And I would say you guys thoroughly read and go through the documentation of Magento 2's dependency injection. There are different types of injections like constructor injection. I mean, when you write in your class and you might need lots of other dependencies and you need to inject in your constructor, and that's a constructor in dependency constructor injection. But however, da.xml file is used in Magento to inject these dependencies. Configures with dependencies are injected by object manager. You can also specify sensitive configuration settings using da.xml. Areas and application entry points. Each module can have a global area. Dependency injection can be restricted to front end or area specific. So admin or front end has more areas: GraphQL, Web API, contact, and yeah. So in this session, we are only going to discuss about preferences, where for an existing Magento core class or any third-party core class, you want to override the function or method, public or protected. So you're gonna use the preference. So in this example, uh, we're using a controller relevant with Magento's customer. We are going to take a look on that. But before coming back to our events, so this is our event which we have registered. When you add a product to the cart, it should execute, and it's going to do nothing because we haven't written anything uh, uh, in our code here in our method execute method. So it's going to straightforward add the product to the cart. Bear in mind our plugin is also executing at the same time. Since we have written anything in here, it's not going to do anything in specific. I can see that the product is added to the cart now. So I'm going to reload the product page, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to write something here. Echo hello, this is a custom observer, and I'm going to break the control here. So I'm going to add a product to the cart. Let's see what happens. It has broken something in there, and we are not able to add the product to the cart. Yeah, the quantity is 3. I'm going to remove the product to the cart just to make sure you guys understand this better. I'm going to delete the cart items. Yeah, delete. Are you sure you would like to remove the item? Yes, delete. So the cart is now empty, and I'm gonna add the product again back into the cart. Let's see if it acts. Since I'm breaking the control here, since I'm breaking the control here, it should not add the product. And page is just going to reload. Yeah, no product has been added. So now you have your control in the observer. It's up to you guys what you want to perform here. You want to read the cookies, you want to take some other data from the front end, you want to log this action, add to cart action. It's up to you guys. Observer also gives you the access to the object, the current object, so you guys can also take that uh, object and collect data from that. So what else? What else can we do in here? Let's just get rid of this condition in here and comment all of this. So observer get request, set parameter at false if you only want to add product to the class. I'm gonna get rid of that too. My custom message from the observer. Let's see if we get see this message. And yeah, let's set the product to the false also. I'm gonna add this to the cart again. As you can see, my custom message from the observer. So now the control is in your hand. So you define what needs to be done here. So that's how you override, not override. I would say you get the control on specific event when you're pressing the add to cart button. What's going to happen? The control is going to come into your observer, and you can do anything that you wish to do here. So that's about events and observer, an example on that. So we're going to continue on the preferences as we discussed. We're going to override the functionality. So this is an example from Magento customer extension. So in the di.xml file, I'm going to add specific node that's preference for Magento customer controller account create. So when the customer is going to create an account, this controller is executed. So I'm gonna add here and module name, first module controller account create. So we are going to create the controller. So in our module we are going to create this directory, and account another directory, and the file create.php. This is our controller. In Magento, if you want to create your controller, you need to create a routes.xml file and and define a front-end path in that routes.xml, and the router ID is standard, router root ID is kill, kill, front name kill, module kill underscore first module before. That's okay. Yeah. So to render a controller on the front end, you need a specific path. For example, if I'm clicking on sign up here, sign in, create account, something like that. So it's going to redirect me to a controller path. On the URL, you will be seeing customer account create, customer account login, something like that. Here I see customer account create. So create.php file is this file which is rendering the front end for that. So the router name is customer, account is the directory, create is the file. So account is the directory, create is the file. The front name is customer. To access my controller, I need to write here AQUIL, that's my name, route name, then account and create. So this file is going to be executed when I hit enter on this. Currently the file is not created, so it's not going to do anything. Let's copy the controller and I'm going to change that to our module name. Yeah, controller create is the one extending controller of Magento customer. This session logged in or this registration is allowed, then path, this is going to be the path. So what I'm gonna do, echo hello here is custom create execute function and then exit. Make sure we are having our page being rendered. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna again execute all the Magento commands just to make sure our controller is properly registered. So next time when I hit my controller here, it should show me that particular message. And if I refresh this page, the controller should be going into this specific controller which I have written, because in the real of XML I specifically written Magento customer controller account create. So create.php when executed, it should redirect itself to my custom file. I'm gonna open this file just to see what's written in this file in the core module. That's customer, then controller, then account, then create.php. This is the file that we are trying to extend. It has this certain function. That's the same function we that's available in, in the custom file. But however, since I have set an exit here, it's not going to perform anything. So let's see if we completed our deployment. Deployment still in progress. So working with Magento on your local, make sure you guys have enough resources. I would suggest 16 gigs of RAM, 128 minimum SSD. Uh, if not, if you're working with HDD of less than 8 GB RAM, then it's going to be slow. Around 16 GB RAM high processor. Still, I'm having a hard time to work with Magento. So that's a kill. So I'm gonna open Magento create account page. So let's see what happens. Roll out. So where are we? We are at hello here is customer create execute function. That's our custom function here. So whatsoever I'm going to add here, that's going to execute. The original function is not going to execute. So this is how you write the preference to override the core functionality. Yeah, so we have completed our 4 points: creating controller, preferences, and events observers and plugins. That's it for today, guys. You'll have this module uh, uh, link under the video description so that you guys can go download. Yeah, thank you, guys. See you. Bye. Please like, subscribe our channel so that other Magento devs who are newly uh, training themselves to work with Magento projects can take the best out of it. Thank you. Do subscribe us.